before we get started on this, tell me that Michael Ironside does not look like the Iceman. When I watched this movie, The Knuckleball, during the hallucination scenes, I was like, oh my god, is this the Iceman? I'm over here doing research, it's like, nope. You talk about a doppelganger, I was like, wow. I was shook. I was freaked out. Knuckleball is a 2018 thriller movie, Canadian, about this young boy named Henry staying with his grandfather while his parents go away to a funeral. Now, unbeknownst to him, the most unfortunate thing in the world happens. His grandfather dies in the middle of the night, and they're out in the middle of nowhere. Out in the country, out in the sticks. No cell phone, nada. He's fucked. Early on when they get there, as the parents leave Henry to stay with his grandfather, we do get this other character named Dixon. He plays a very important part in this movie. But up until about midways through, you don't really get any exposition beside this one very awkward scene where Dixon walks up to Henry and is like, hey man, how you doing? Follow me. You want to have some fun? We'll go to my house. This screams stranger danger. He's very awkward in the way he talks. You can just tell this guy's bad news. And then the grandpa walks over there, tells Henry to go do what he told him to do in the first place, was to go get some firewood. They live on this farm, and he's doing a lot of farm work. Just being a helping hand, a gopher. And then while Henry's walking away, he looks back, and the grandpa just fucking punches Dixon and sends him on his way. And Dixon announces himself as the neighbor. So that whole scenario is the first red flag you get in the film. The only bonding time they have, the grandfather takes a very short break. Henry's throwing these snowballs at the side of the barn. And the grandpa's like, stop fucking throwing shit at my barn. You're gonna dent the metal. He doesn't say that, but you can just tell in his demeanor, the look in his eyes, like, stop fucking doing this. But for a moment, he has a big heart. He brings these large plywood boards up there, and he teaches him how to throw a baseball. A pretty small but heartfelt moment between them. I was like, okay. But let's fast forward, right? The grandfather dies in the middle of the night. Because he's up there, he's on some scaffolding, and he's hammering stuff, and the grandfather falls down in pain holding his chest. And he's like, oh, get up, you old fuck. Walk it off. And he did. But later that night, he died. So here we are. Henry is in this house. He has discovered his grandfather has passed away. Henry had forgot his cell phone charger, so he doesn't have any way to call the police. Now, he did call his father and left him a voicemail, but it was so staticky that he couldn't tell what happened. So the only thing that he could do is, guess what? Go to the neighbor's house. Dixon's house. The guy that was a huge red flag from day one. Now, a lot of strange things occur in this house. Okay, for one, Dixon's like, oh my God, come in. Let's go to my house. You don't need to be here right now. And the first odd thing that he does is like, hey, you hungry? You're thirsty? You know, I can get you something to eat, something to drink. Henry's like, yeah. And one thing I will say about this film, Henry, which is just a 12-year-old boy, is very smart, very clever. Dixon was putting pills into his drink. Henry picked up on this very early. He was smart enough to do so by swapping the drinks, unbeknownst to Dixon. I was like, fuck yeah, boy. Keep going. You're on a roll. At first, Dixon plays nice, like, hey, I'm here to help you, I'm your friend. They start talking about casual conversation like Call of Duty, and does his computer work? Can we access the internet? He's like, nah. Can I use your phone? Does your phone work? No. So Dixon sits him down, and he plays this really awkward game, right? Very awkward. Let's have a race and see who can finish this drink the fastest. Fucking blatantly obvious shit. And so he gulps that shit down. Henry does not, just to be safe. And Dixon starts feeling a little woozy. And then the phone rings, right? Henry runs to pick it up, but Dixon chases after him. But at this point, Dixon's so fucked up on the medication that he kind of just falls down, and Henry has already ran back to the farmhouse. Now, one thing I do like about this, which is the grandfather, comes back in hallucination scenes, which is really, really cool. But Henry has nowhere to go, and he knows that Dixon is going to come after him, and he does so. So Dixon comes after him. Henry is smart enough to set a trap for Dixon. Now, let me explain this trap. This may seem like a Jigsaw, John Kramer kind of kid thing, or like Home Alone. Henry put his faith all into this one trap. So Dixon comes after him, stumbling around. Henry was smart enough to stomp his boots to make fake footprints leading to the basement. Dixon follows those down into the basement. Henry laid baseballs down all over the steps so he would trip. And at the very bottom of the steps, he put barbed wire, which is grueling enough, right? But it doesn't stop there. Henry also filled his containers full of what I'm guessing is maybe paint thinner or alcohol or something that burns quick. So once Dixon falls down the steps into the barbed wire in excruciating agony, Henry's up there fucking baseball pitching these motherfuckers at him and sets him on fire, sets Dixon on fire. I'm like, God damn, good for you, Henry. You're ahead of the fucking curve. But Henry immediately slaps me in the face because he goes down there to see if he's dead. I know they couldn't probably afford to burn the house down, practically or CGI, but there's no fire damage whatsoever. Dixon has substantial damage on his face. From this point of view, I'm assuming it's alcohol because it burns quick. So Dixon has somehow escaped this fucking barbed wire. He's laying there looking like fucking Freddy Krueger on one side of his face. And Henry goes down there and kicks him to make sure he's dead. Henry, you know this guy ain't dead. Like, come on, get your shit together. The rest of the movie is a cat and mouse game, for which, for the most part, Henry has the upper hand, but it comes to the point where he does not. The dad finally gets the voicemail. The parents are concerned. They're going to fly back to try to save Henry because they know something's wrong. They just don't know what. So they call the local police. The police send out a welfare check. And there's this point in the movie where Henry runs into the room where the grandfather passed away in, right? And he is cornered by Dixon. And there's this very awkward scene. Okay, I got you now, you little shit. Now it's time to play. And rips his fucking shirt. I'm like, is this some pedophilic shit? Like, I don't want to see this movie. But just in the nick of time, an officer pulls up, just one, you know, it's always just fucking one, out in the snowstorm, knocks Henry unconscious, goes out and beats the fucking brakes off of this officer. Very cool shot because all you see is Dixon beating this fucking cop, this lady cop with this baseball bat. Blood is squirting all over the snow. She drops her gun and Dixon gets the gun. So Dixon races back up there to get Henry, but Henry had escaped through the window on the scaffolding I was talking about where the grandfather had his little episode. So Dixon makes the decision, run all the way back down there to the back of the house, and he's going to chase after him. Now the grandfather shows up in these hallucination scenes, basically guiding him. He's like, Dixon, boy, look down. What do you see? Ah, there's no footprints in the snow. He's still in the house. Shit like that. So there is some more cat and mouse games throughout this film, which is very pleasing to watch. It'll keep you on the edge of your seat. It will, for Henry. Now the most confusing part of this is that the grandfather and Dixon kept this barn locked. But when Henry found the grandfather, Henry put on the coat because it was cold outside. It's a fucking snowstorm, right? And in the pocket, he found the keys. So his last resort of getting away from Dixon is to run to the barn. And now even inside the barn, there's these cellar doors, to which Henry finds a woman locked in a cage. So Dixon goes down there and Henry is trapped. Now right beforehand, Henry took this shotgun off the wall and gave it to this woman. At the moment, Dixon doesn't see any of this. Dixon then gives the run-of-the-mill monologue. Hey, the grandfather was actually my father. He never claimed me. Reveals his true intentions of how Dixon was going to put him down there anyway. So I guess he never really wanted to kill Henry. He wanted to keep him down there because I guess they're related. But in my mind, Dixon has some pretty perverse plans for Henry down there. He's probably going to do some fucked up shit and live out some fucked up fantasies. I don't even want to get into all that. But he turns around because he hears a click. And then he's like, Mom? I'm like, Mom? So now we must backtrack just a little bit. Throughout the movie, we get very little screen time of the parents. But when we do, it's mainly the mother. And the mother keeps having these flashbacks. And to sum it all up, I guess her mother had killed herself in that barn. I'm guessing the mother had found out that the grandfather had been having an affair and killed herself for it. Now what I don't understand, going back in the present time, why they have Dixon's mother locked up. It just doesn't make any sense to me. The story there has a big gray area, which I'll get into in a minute. So let's finish this film out and we'll get to that, my theories on it. So in the last attempt to get out, the mother shoots Dixon dead. But at the same time, he shoots her dead. It was kind of like a crossbow. Boom, boom. They're dead. The next morning, more police arrive. The parents arrive. They're going home. And one very interesting shot I thought about this scene is right before Henry gets into his parents' car to go away, he looks back up on the scaffolding and he sees his grandfather. But he's hallucinating that. So I feel like that shot alone has established that this family has a hereditary symptom of being mentally unstable, giving the audience a little tease on that Henry might carry over these fucked up traits of the grandfather and Dixon. Up until half this movie, not much happened. It's beautifully shot, great cinematography, great acting. The cat and mouse game, they made it last. It was interesting the whole time. It was antsy the whole time. I feel like the ending could have been explained a lot more. If you're going for one of them endings you gotta theorize about, I don't feel like this is the way to go. I feel like you could have ended this properly and just went on the cliffhanger of Henry hallucinating about his grandfather being on a scaffolding shot, right? Because then you're telling the audience that, hey, mentally, Henry's probably scarred, but he's probably going to carry over these psychotic traits that the family did as well. If I had to rate this movie, I'm going to rate this movie a 6.5 out of 10. I did enjoy it. I feel like the ending kind of takes it down, having the mother there, because it just doesn't make any logical sense to me. And you didn't provide a logical reason. Why is he hiding that Dixon was his son? Why would you do that? Why are they keeping the mother down there locked in a fucking cage in the first place? Like, you can't just have an open relationship with her out in the public? Yeah, it sucks your wife killed herself, but I mean, goddamn, 20 years later, you can have a relationship afterwards. Plus, you're out in the middle of nowhere. Who gives a fuck? You might go to town like once every fucking month. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. A lot of questions, but I'm going to lay this to rest. I'm going to give this 6.5. Tell me what you think. Maybe if I watch this a couple more times, I'll have my answers. But honestly, I don't want them. This movie's just a one and done for me. It's not so bad that I don't want to watch this movie again, but I just don't want to watch this movie again. It's just a movie that you watch and be like, that was cool. Next. Thank you guys so much for taking part of your day to kick it with me. You know I appreciate it. I love you all. Until next time. Adios.